Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to welcome you to the Budget Workshop and Board of Education meeting. We would like to make sure that our audience is aware that this is going to be recorded. It will be released shortly on the school website. This evening, our Business Administrator, Mike Bastian, will present on the budget. Mike will be taking questions after each section, and we do ask tonight that if you have a question that you do come to the podium, just so that people that are watching the recording back are able to hear the question as well as the answer. So Mike, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. So to begin tonight, I wanted to take a brief review of where we were with draft 1 and the first budget workshop on March 5th. Again, not to go over all of that water, but just a quick review. So we'll start there. At the end of the draft 1 budget workshop on March 5th, we talked about state aid from the governor's executive run coming in at a projected $8,377,359. The levy, allowable levy at limit, at the tax cap of $10,913,881, and other miscellaneous revenue at $625,000 for a total projected revenue of $19,941,240. The 25-26 draft 1 expense budget came in at $21,565 and $371. That was a $1,833,289 or 9.3% increase over the 24-25 expense budget. Being that the draft revenue budget was at $19,941 and the draft 1 expense budget was at $21,565,371, we had a draft 1 expense to gap revenue gap of $1,624,131. Also back on March 5th, shared a very similar chart to this, actually melded two charts together to make the point that expense budgets over the last 3 to 4 years have not increased on pace with actual cost increases. We have done a lot of work to keep those year-to-year expense budgets at a lower rate, a lower slope or trajectory of increases than we saw in our actual expense increases at the end of each of those fiscal years and projected for this year. We discussed some expense side realities. Projection as of March 5th would be to expend 98% of our 24-25 expenditure budget. That's really on a razor's edge. That's very close to full expenditure, which is not sustainable nor advisable from experts in school finances. Contingency trimming over the last 2 to 3 years, and then some increased special ed costs, student move-ins, higher utilities, BoE services, some costs coming in higher than anticipated, all helped to create the situation this year, along with the contingency trimming of the last several years, so that we are going to be expending a greater portion of our budget than we've seen over the last few years as we progress towards that gradually each of the last 3 to 4 years. Talked about a fund balance projection earlier than have shared in the past, really because of the volatility and the changeability of that. So I expect to see some change, but that March 5th fund balance projection from the BoCES Central Business Office was $203,819. I talked how about that was a concern given that we have a separate $750,000 emergency project for the auditorium air conditioning, which is going to eat into our 4% unassigned fund balance. Yes, that is for emergencies, and that is what we are doing in this case, but it is absolutely in the district's best financial interest to make sure that that is paid back. So we're going to, again, obviously track revenues for the rest of the year and that end of year fund balance to see where that comes in, because that would not go directly into reserves as we have in the past. At the end of this year, it would go into the 4% unassigned to get that back to where it should be. We talked about expense drivers, and I'll continue that here. Health insurance premiums, special education programming, computer technology, transportation, ERS retirement, district obligation, employer obligation. Staff development, BoE services costs. We're seeing increases across the board with BoEs. Gas and electricity utilities up. We talked about everybody at home seeing their January, February bills and realizing 30% increase on those rates in this region. Occ Ed per student cost increase, a 12% increase from BoEs there as well. And then, of course, always contractual obligations. Any questions on the review from prior budget workshop? Just wanted to set the stage with that. If it was specific to what we just covered, sure.
Carol, you'll just have to hit the little person button on there.
Thank you. Thank you. Just to work through the numbers. So looking at the audit report for 2023-24, the actual expenditures were just under 18 million. We'll call it 18 million. And then in your slide, you showed that you are, that we have a budget of 19,732,000 for 24-25. You're on target to spend 19,285,796. That's still, and that's still over $1 million over. So I'm not sure how the math comes out. Are you saying that that you've had, all right, let me back up a second. So as compared to the year prior, 18 million, are your actual expenses this year really tracking to spending $1.28 million
Yes.
more than the year
Yes.
prior?
Yes.
Does that include that you're trying to make up the difference for the to have enough surplus to replenish that 750,000?
No, that's independent.
So independent. So in addition to the 300,000, because I thought the 300,000, so literally all those things are costing $1 million more than the year prior, more than $1 million.
Which things are you referring to? I'm sorry.
The drivers.
The
increase-
drivers are for 25-26 increases.
Okay.
For the draft one of 25-26. Those are the drivers for 25-26.
Okay.
The numbers we're talking about now compared 23-24 to 24-25 current year.
Okay, if we compare 23-24 to the current year, as I said, the actual expenses were 18 million, the actual expenditures from the
Yep.
audit report.
Yep.
But you're tracking to actual expenditures of
19.2.
19.2.
Mhm.
So that's correct. So that's no surplus other than the 200,000 that you're anticipating.
Well, no, the 19,285 would, on the expense side, would come off of the 19,732 that was the 24-25 budget. Remember, fund balance is both on the expense side and the revenue side. So if you wanted to
Right.
calculate what is our targeted under expenditure just on the expense side,
Yes.
it would be that 19,732 minus 19,285 at this point.
Okay, so
as
you were
projected.
literally spending $1.2 million more this year than you did last year.
Yes. That's what the expense side projections are showing.
Okay, and that's what we'll have in the audit. Okay, thank you.
Yes. At this point, I'd like to shift to articulate changes from draft one to draft two. So this is something I haven't provided in the past, and I want to explain why. When we look at the draft by category, by function, this document every year shows comparing draft two to the 24-25 budget. 2 weeks ago, it showed comparing draft one to the 24-25 budget. What we haven't had is a compare draft one to draft two. So this document seeks to take care of providing that information, and it ties in perfectly with the other one we'll see in a moment. But this is to show side by side draft two in the first central column and draft one, which we had on March 5th, further to the right. And then the change, obviously, in the column furthest to the right. Ms. Fluke will in a few moments, she'll be talking a little bit more about some of these changes, but you can see if you just want to focus, if you just like to focus on the change column, working from top to bottom. Okay, Chief School Administrator, we see a change, a reduction of $2,000. In personnel, we see a reduction, that's for a BoE service, a reduction, getting rid of that service for $5,500. If we continue down the page, you see a reduction of $1,500. That is an attempt that they really want to spearhead at the high school to reduce the amount of paper mailings going out. And this is specifically a trial run on 5-week reports, progress reports, and 10-week report cards, that instead parents and students would be accessing those through school tool digitally rather than getting a mailing home. So just did a quick calculation of how many times a year, how many kids are getting report cards that way, times the cost of a stamp on our postage meter, and we're saying $1,500 to try that experiment. If it works well and people are on board with that, we're saving paper and such, saving money as well, then we can maybe look at some of the bigger mailings also, like that huge summer packet that comes out, right? As we continue down the page, unallocated assurance. This is the only increase on this list. I had to go between draft 1 and draft 2. School districts in the region across the state found out from Utica National, our insurance carrier, that liability rates were going up 15 to 17%, so that we should plan accordingly. That was very helpful after the first draft of the budget was already in the books, right? So business officials all over the region all scrambled to increase that line. That line represents not exactly 15 to 17%. There was also a little bit of contingency trimming. I had some contingency in there because we were under budgeted for insurance this year. It's another one of those areas where we got caught too tight to the bone. So I had added some contingency for a few $1,000s for draft 1. And then I was able to play off of that and not take the full $19,000 increase, but a $15,000 increase with no contingency in that line. Again, a little scary. As we continue down, curriculum development and supervision, we have been able to cut back since draft 1, working with cabinet, and Mrs. Fluke will talk more about that, to really, we don't want to ever want to reduce professional development opportunities for teachers, because that's crucial to student success as well. But we are looking at the priorities we have for the science of reading, making sure that we have summertime for teachers to work in that PD area, and maybe cut back or postpone some of the other areas of curriculum development, staff development that we would otherwise like to be able to have. So we are trimming there. Supervision regular school, you see a $250 decrease. That's one of the offices was able to decrease one of their other expense lines for the office. In-service training also speaks to the importance of the science of reading, but an ability that we're going to be able to save some of the money with BOCES for some of that training specific to science of reading in partnering with another local school district. Rather than pay the whole cost for presenters to come in, now we're going to be able to pay half the cost. So we see a nice reduction there. Continuing on, bottom half of the page, teaching regular school and students with disabilities. We see a significant decreasing in teaching regular school. Draft 1 contained some projected positions, and we have removed those new projected positions, okay? Again, Ms. Fluke will go in a little more detail there. Similarly, with students with disabilities, we had talked about opening a new special education program in district, in-house. So we were going to be hiring a teacher and a TA for that. We are not going to be moving forward that, so that speaks to a good amount of that decrease. And we also have 2 students who are going to be changing placements for next year, one coming back to district and one moving from a more costly, further away setting to something in the BOCES Finger Lakes region. And so we're able to take considerable savings that were not available to us at the time of draft 1. It really just goes to show and goes to underscore really kind of the continuous news as it comes in, and placements change and things, information from BOCES, information from the insurance company, in this case, information from CSE meetings that can change a student's trajectory or programming. They're going to continue to happen. They can happen anytime, and they can happen between draft to draft. But we do see significant reductions in those 2 lines. Moving forward, School library audiovisual is a reduction in materials and supplies. And computer-assisted instruction was from our technology department, Erica Esquino, able to postpone, not cancel, but postpone some equipment purchases. We will still be on track with student and staff needs for next year, but it is a postponement a bit to secure that savings in the area of computer technology equipment. Moving further down, the 2850 co-curricular activities, regular school. This is, Ms. Fluke will speak a little bit more, but cabinet really looking at some of our less attended clubs or opportunities for students and some of the stipends that go along with that. Realizing how important extracurriculars are for our students, those after-school clubs and organizations and opportunities. This is really trying to be very careful with any changes that would incur there, because we know that a robust offering of clubs is great for students after school and to their whole educational experience. District transportation, we see a decrease of $42,518. Draft 1 included aspirations for a new driver and a new monitor, and Draft 2 has those removed from the 25-26 budget. Ray and his staff do an incredible job of filling holes, of everybody stepping up to the plate to making sure that everybody gets where they need to go. They do a fantastic job of that. A few of the special education state changes for student programming are also going to allow us to not have a couple of the further runs, so we can bring those drivers back in to work closer to Honeoye. So we are hopeful that not moving forward with the new driver and the new monitor will be all right for next year. Okay. Continuing further, state retirement, teachers' retirement, and Social Security, those are payroll function codes. So as we have decided not to hire some of these new positions, the projected payroll has gone down for transportation, for teaching, for the special education, for these different areas. And when the payroll goes down, then I can recalculate the district's obligation towards ERS, state retirement, TRS, state retirement, and Social Security. So we see a savings there. They're directly related. And then also with those 4 or 5 new hires that we are not moving forward with, I, of course, need to project for district exposure. I need to project those folks having health insurance plans. So I was able to pull back a significant amount on what they could have had for health insurance, and that is reflected in the $134,000. So grand total for changes from draft 1 to draft 2 is $674,807. A lot of work with the cabinet, with the budget subcommittee, Mrs. Fluke, and all those involved to get us to this point. Before asking for questions on these 2 slides, this page, I'd like to bring up this page and give Ms. Fluke an opportunity to speak and to kind of flesh out. This is really kind of a little bit more of a narrative version of what we just saw, and then we'll take questions on the 2.
Okay, so just wanted to talk a little bit more specifically about some of the reductions that we are currently looking at. So you saw the first 2, the special education teacher and the special education TA. So we went from recognizing we will not be opening a section at the elementary school. So those were 2 positions that we were able to reduce from the draft 1 budget to now. Looking at the City BoCES COSER, that is the distance learning equipment that you will see in the Career Cafe. We are still utilizing the equipment that was delivered as part of the grant, but along with the grant came a $25,000 price tag for the distance learning coordinator. So in meeting with the person who was going to be supervising the coordinator, we were able to kind of see that is something, all of the services that person was going to be able to deliver, we feel comfortable that we're able to provide those services in-house. So that was a conversation we've had only since our last board meeting. So that is something we feel confident with removing at this time. So we will be providing the coordination and the specialized training that goes along with utilizing that equipment. Looking down, elementary summer academy and literacy club. So those are kind of hot topics because This is part of the academics that goes into our elementary students. So this was something that we really wanted to spend careful consideration on. Now, I have been working with both Richmond Rec and with the library, so Allen's Hill, Honeoye, and Bristol, to see what kind of academic supports can they provide possibly over the summer. So I just spoke with Janelle Specca actually today. We have some great ideas about how we can offer some through the library, so free services through the library, new this summer, as far as getting some of our kids who would be attending summer academy into some of those programs. So along with that, the other components that came along with summer academy, we can work out with now the robust offerings that Richmond Rec is going to be providing this summer. So in collaboration with both Janelle Specca, Terry Downs, myself, we're hoping to be able to provide some of the services you would see being reduced between those two lines. Okay, moving on, the bus monitor, and then later on, you see the driver. So Mr. Bastian already spoke to those. Extracurricular expenses. So we're really diving deep into this because we do have a robust offering of both before and after school intramurals, clubs. We do not want to see any of those go away. So what we're doing is looking at consolidating or being able to provide offerings in a different way for clubs. We did provide, by the way, this to teachers. We did a meeting at the staff meeting yesterday with secondary staff, this morning with elementary staff, and they even gave us some additional ideas that you won't see here that we're going to go back and see what we can kind of figure out. But we're looking at not getting rid of or necessarily eliminating the offerings that we have, but how can we consolidate, better utilize the staff that we have, and maybe come up with some creative solutions there. Digitalizing some of our mailings. So that's something the teachers were really excited about doing. Maybe this is something that we can do on a larger scale moving forward. It's going to be something we're piloting this year. Of course, for our families that still want hard copies, yes, we can absolutely still do that. So you see that there. Summer PD days. So that is something that I have been working on with both Naples and Bloomfield superintendents to see how can we really for the first time consolidate some of our resources for offering professional development, not only over the summer, but throughout the school year. So Mr. Bastian talked a little bit about some of the science of reading services that we are going to be partnering with Bloomfield to split the cost of. But then looking at summer PD days, reducing the number of days. So we're not eliminating professional learning for teachers, but at this time we're looking at just reducing the number of hours and then how can we provide those back during the school year. So that's still something we're looking at. A fourth cafeteria monitor. We're going to be going from 4 to 3. We talked about the bus driver, the UPK grant shifting. So that's something that comes out of our UPK classroom teacher. That is her budget there. You see reduced because we incur that money in a grant and another line. You wouldn't have seen that in draft 1. And then Mr. Bastian talked about the special ed placements. There's at this point, 2 students who are going to be either returning to the school or changing placements. So, and those are confirmed. So there's only 2 confirmed at this time. And that's why you see the $105,000 reduction there. And that was just in as well. And that's it. He talked about the healthcare reduction, the building level materials and supply reduction. That was just working more closely with our principals to say, how can we look more closely at the money allocated to individual teachers to say, how can we reduce those funds for next year?
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Any questions in regards the cataloging of differences between draft 1 and draft 2?
Thanks. I know a lot of work went into this and it's, noticed it's nice that it's going in the right direction and, really thinking creatively and outside the box. So I guess my question is now that you are where you are, going back again, the actual projected for this year, and that's projected, is that 19,285,796. And this budget is 20,890,554, which represents an expenditure increase of 1.6 million. Last year, 1.285, this year, 1.6 million, which is, we've never had an increase in actual expenditures in budget of more than $700,000. My question is, out of this 20,890,554, how much is contingency and how much is what you project actual? Like, do you have a target for, I know it's a concern.
Contingency is also really difficult to define. I mean, it's easy to look at actual expenses and do the Monday morning quarterbacking and the hindsight 2020, right? But if we have an anticipation or a projection, that is as real as it gets when it comes time to budget, and we have to act accordingly. We have to budget accordingly. The fact that it comes in different, may come in higher, may come in lower, doesn't mean that that was not a real expense at the time of budgeting. So areas like healthcare, areas like utilities, there has to be some contingency. There, again, as there was in 24, 25, and this has been borne out, there's little contingency in this budget. It's a very lean draft 2. It was a very lean 24, 25 budget. Again, we've learned some lessons from that. We don't want to repeat with an aging building, with still volatility in economics and volatility in politics. We have to limit the exposure and the liability of the district. And this auditorium thing is a perfect example. Some of the special education cost is a perfect example. So we cannot be budgeting and aiming to budget at a 99% expenditure or 100% expenditure. It is absolutely not appropriate within a public school district.
Well, there has to be some percentage that in your ideal world for contingency, you talk about the 99%. What percentage would be the contingency?
I believe Tom Zuber this fall said used the idea of 95%.
So you're talking about a 5% contingency, and that is just in the budget. So you don't count use of the reserves or
No, we're just talking,
consideration.
so far, we're just talking about expense projections, expense budgeting.
Okay, so,
Correct.
and so that's the 5%.
Again, that was, I
expenditures.
believe that was the number we heard Tom Zuber use in October when he presented. Yep. But again, as we're making projections, it's not the same as the actual numbers. It's easy to do it afterwards, right? It's easy to do it when we have the actual expenses, and we have seen, as the earlier chart shows, significant increases in actual expenditures. They've been going up 8% and 9% the last 2 years, as opposed to the budgets have only gone up the 2.4% or so the last couple of years. So the actual expenditures have greatly outpaced those year-to-year budgetary increases, okay? And we are seeing that come home to roost in these end-of-year actual expenses. 19,285 is a projection, and we still have 3.5 months to get there. And again, a lot of volatility going. This is working with the CBO, the Central Business Office, our treasurer of BoCES, and I expect those numbers to change some too. But right now, the information I can share through them is that 19,285 number. So that's what we're using at this point. Yes.
I'm not even looking at the individual lines. I'm just looking at the
Right.
total, because you
Yep.
can move between items,
Yep.
as you know, and
Sure.
you've done there too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but then when you factor in revenues and you look at where the actual expenditures and the surplus, looking at the expenditures versus the revenues, we've been in very good shape, very good shape. And this represents this year, this projection of the actual projection, as I said, represents a huge increase from what we've seen in the past in terms of expenditures. And
Yes.
it's
Yes. So
hard
again,
to see that.
Again, when the budgeted expense, and not just about the trimming of contingency, though that is something that we have over the last couple of years really given a lot of attention to and really looking at the actual expenses. And now we are seeing those actual expenses. So when we're only increasing an expense budget by 2.48%, but the healthcare is really 22, 10, and 11%, and utilities are 30%, and you name it. I mean, the things that are hitting us at our homes are also hitting us in school. So when I say at the end of last year, actual expenses from the prior year were up over 8%, and this year they're close to 9% for the projection over last year. Those are the real actual expenditures. That is why we are where we are with this expense budget.
Okay, all right, I'll let you go through the
Yep.
rest. I'm sure I'll have more questions, but thank you.
Right. I also want to be able to look at this the other way, which is comparing draft 2 back to the 24-25 budget. We did that for draft 1. We've done this every year. So this exercise will be familiar. And I don't want to repeat again a lot of what was done 2 weeks ago. But this is draft 2 shown by function. And you'll see the left-hand column is the 25-26 proposed budget as draft 2. So if you want to write draft 2 above that, it does say that in the header on top. The second line is the 24-25 budget, original budget for 24-25. You see the dollar change and the percent change. Anything parentheses is a decrease from 24-25 to 25-26. Anything without parentheses is an increase. Our past history has been to look at things that are 10% up or down or more. Last time I actually looked at things that were 5% because there weren't as many, the way things are clustered. I'll do that again, but I will again mention where these things are same as they were in draft 1. The election workers, 1060, we talked about that last time, minimum wage going up, so we need to make that increase there. 1240, while it's a minimal, that is a decrease. We checked on our other chart, a $2,000 increase. 1310, 1320, same as draft 1. We explained that in draft 1. 1345 purchasing, same as draft 1. 1430 personnel is a decrease of a BoE service. I mentioned it on that the first chart we looked at tonight. By function, that is a 42% decrease because we are dropping a service through BoCES there, $5,500. Operation of plant, we talked about gas and electric, it's same as draft 1. We turn to page 2. Central mailing and printing, we talked about the $1,500 experiment with digitizing some of our mailings. So that is a change from draft 1. I wanted to note that. 1680 data processing, no change from draft 1. It's a 10%. We talked about a lot more of our printing going to BoCES. So that is a BoCES line. So that would explain why that had gone up. Unallocated insurance, this is that $15,112 net change due to Utica National notifying schools of a 15 to 17% liability and property insurance increase for 25-26. So that's why the insurance is showing a 23% increase overall. Again, we were under budgeted for 24-25, so that's compounded. It's not just a 15 to 17%. The change is also to make up for how we were under budgeted there, cutting the contingency too close for 24-25. If we go down to 2010, draft 2, we see a decrease, $29,000. That speaks to what Ms. Fluke was saying with reducing some of the summer curriculum, summer professional development for teachers. The small $250 change in 2020 that I referred to, a decrease of $14,500 in 2070 in-service training instruction, being able to partner with another district to reduce our $25,000 or so fee to bring folks in to teach our teachers about science of reading. We're able to collaborate with another district and see about half savings there. Teaching regular school, 2110. There's a change already mentioned in the earlier slide, as well as 2250. Those changes are $143,000 reduction, $185,000 reduction. 2280, same as draft 1. We talked about the per student increase there for CTE Occ Ed last time. The next line, teaching special schools, same as draft one. The big increase there is providing driver ed this summer. And then in 2610, we have that $1,000 decrease for materials and supplies in the library program. Next page. Draft two takes the $55,000 equipment decrease for computer assisted instruction. We spoke to that. And then no changes in 2810, 15, and 20, and 25 from draft one. Draft two, 2850, the extracurricular, co-curricular services. We see that reduction we talked about earlier this evening, 31,000 or so. That's the change for draft two from draft one. District transportation, we mentioned a decrease for not hiring a new monitor and driver, a decrease of 42,000 noted there. So that brought down the percent change from a higher number in draft one. State retirement, I've already explained changes there as they are functions of payroll. When we reduce payroll projections by not hiring certain positions, we are going to see a direct correlation to the ERS, TRS, and Social Security lines going down for draft two. And then on the last page, we see health insurance function down $134,000. Again, that's new hires that we had projected for draft one being taken out. And so the projected healthcare that could have been for those folks, taking that out and decreasing the percent change. So again, healthcare is up 11%. The premiums are up 11%, but working within contingency and the actual what we would have projected for these folks we're not hiring, we see that going down to 5% change. So overall, we get to the bottom of draft two here, and we see a budget of $20,890,564. The change from the prior year, from 24-25, is the expense budget being up $1,158,482, or up 5.87%. In draft one, it had been up 9.3. So yes, as Ms. Baker said, some significant work from draft two to draft one, and thank you to everyone involved with that. Carol, any questions from this particular document? Okay. All right. Then bringing it all together. Projected reserves, again, a little bit of review here. We've talked several times about the executive age run, so no change to this picture. We hope to get more information, new information from the Office of Budget of New York State after the Assembly and the legislature work together with the executive branch of the New York State government to come up with a final budget, some compromises, and we'll see what that means for us. We would love to see a little more foundation aid, maybe some other bullet aid, other areas of support, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Tax cap calculation, we've also talked about the tax levy limit for 25-26, $10,913,881, an allowable levy increase of 5.69% or $587,000. Revenue side realities, the 25-26 New York State aid for Honeywell Central is only up 1.64% over last year. This is based on our executive aid run. We know we don't have the final answer yet. I don't expect a lot of movement. Anything positive would certainly be helpful. Other realities for revenue side, investment revenues are coming back down. We really benefited last year, and actually a lot of our fund balance was created by revenues coming in higher than anticipated with the investment return being good, but we have to project for lower interest rates because that's what financial experts are telling us. We do not want to overestimate what those interest rates will be and then be caught without that revenue. Federal education aid, the dynamics with the Department of Education and some of our funding that we get that is not general fund budget, but at the same time, with a little bit of uncertainty about these, we currently have salaries that we would be booking, and we do book every year to these federal grants. We have those in the general fund. So we're really going to continue to look and see what is our confidence rating, our confidence level to feel confident enough to take those out of the 25-26 budget. They're still in there now. Again, we would not want to be caught without those teachers in a general ed, the general fund budget if the federal government was to not provide those funds. So that's kind of where we are right now, and gauging that and looking for information, new information every day. We're seeing an ongoing impact of flat or lagging state aid and what that impact is having on local school revenues, not just ours, but those of our neighbors as well and other schools in the region and the state compared to CPI. The state is well below what the cost price index is with inflation and the local economy. And this places an additional burden upon local communities, shifting from the state more and more to the local communities. That is borne out in this slide, this graphic, that is showing over the last 5 years or so with a projection to 25, 26. The blue line showing tax levy and the percentage or the percent of the revenue that is the levy. That's what this is, okay? And the orange red line is the percent of the overall revenue that is from state aid. You can see they are separating, going in opposite directions, and that is underscoring what I just said on the prior slide. The state is shifting more and more burden to the local authorities, local districts. Okay. So now we'll look at draft 2 revenue projection, staying the same until we know differently from state aid. Continuing to look at the other miscellaneous, continuing to look at what the rates may be, what other sources of revenue may be, but no change from draft 1 to draft 2 there. So that number staying for draft 2 at 19,941,240. If you subtract that, when you subtract that from the new expense budget for draft 2, 2890,564, our draft 2 expense to revenue gap has gone from 1,624,000 to 949,324. Certainly still work to do to have a balanced budget, but $674,000 in that direction is certainly nothing to sneeze at. So what's next? Board of Education Subcommittee will continue meeting, continually working with the superintendent and business officials to look at potential use of reserves. This is something we have done in the past, the last several years, okay? So we will be looking at appropriate consideration of appropriate use of reserves. We know that these are our savings, and they will not last forever if we continue to dip into them, but it will certainly be a strong discussion that we will have to help close the budget gap. We will continue to analyze for cost savings to close the remaining gap and continue our ongoing analysis of all budgeted lines. We will await news from Albany regarding the final budget and possible funding increases, and we will consider board adoption date while it is on the book for April 9th. We will consider that board adoption date in lieu of or in light of the budget timeline from the state and when they are going to come forward with an on-time budget. We're hearing probably not on time, not April 1st. Is what we're hearing. Any questions in regards to these last few slides? Okay. Thank you very much. And that concludes this evening's budget workshop.
Replacement of the HVAC system and how that's coming out of the unencumbered emergency fund, since there's going to be discussion about reserves. Was there or is there any consideration of using the ERS contribution reserve to fund that? And, you know, the 4% gives you a lot of flexibility. Let me say why. Because even at your increased line item budget of $350,000, that reserve has over $2 million in it, $2,044,558. And that's enough at current budgeting levels of the 350,000. The reserve is equal to 6 times the annual budget expenditures. And part of what you do with these reserves is if you have unexpected expenses, if your ERS all of a sudden jacked up an unexpected 200,000, I would assume you would use this and then raise it the next year. So there's plenty of surplus. And this is one of those accounts that's fairly easy to transfer from or back. You could transfer it to the repair reserve fund and use the repair reserve fund to fix the HVAC. And then you would have that 4% that you wouldn't need to replenish. So I think I said it wrong, but has there been any thought about using the repair reserve, funding the repair reserve with monies, transferring it over from ERS and using that for the HVAC?
So, thank you for the question. At the time of looking at the financing for the emergency project, we certainly worked with our financial advisors, our fiscal advisors at Bernie Donigan's office, Sarah Bradshaw and her team. We spoke with the architect as well and sought additional professional opinion. And we did not have the opportunity, the option to just pull from ERS. There are restrictions in the way that reserves can be used, and an emergency expense needs to be within the general fund, and a district cannot just pull in the middle of a year from ERS
No,
to
no,
make
from
up
the
for
repair
shortfall.
reserve, from the repair
We
reserve, which you
looked at
can't do
We looked at
emergencies.
the repair reserve as well, and it was not a recommendation to move from ERS into repair and then utilize repair.
Why not?
Again, anything would have been on the table that our fiscal advisors would have considered for us, and that was absolutely not
Okay.
on the table.
And that's one of the things I think I struggle with, because they represent the district, not the community or the public, and not looking at the overall picture. And this is, to me, this is, I'm throwing out an idea, really looked into this, looked at the repair reserve. You can use emergency.
I certainly asked the question, yes.
And but it would be nice to know the reason, because this would certainly help the budget moving forward and give this board more confidence to use some of the reserves to close this gap, if indeed there is a gap. And, year over year, the money in the reserves has gone up year over year. I know when you talk about it's not sustainable to use a large amount of money, but we haven't been all along. But that 4%, this is right out of the audit report, you can see the trend just going up and up. But, if that's something that could be looked into, that's keeping the 4% intact, not having to replenish that would give you more flexibility and would certainly help this community.
Thank you. I can ask again, but I know that I specifically asked the question in terms of repair reserve, and that was not on the table from our fiscal advisors, but I'll go back again.
Because that's one that hasn't been funded in years. It's sitting
Correct.
at that $2,000.
Yep.
In this
Mhm.
case with this emergency, it would make sense because you can use it for emergencies.
I'll go
Thank-
back and I'll dig deeper on that. Okay.
All set? Okay, thank you. Jen, do we have anybody signed up for public expression? Okay, then we will speed right along. Just a reminder, this is being recorded and will later be on the school website. And now we are moving on to kudos. Does anybody have any this evening?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I just want to say kudos to the music department, with their flexibility. They've been moving around, stuff so everyone can attend basketball games. I know the kids that are involved in band and sports, so the kids are very excited that they've been able to go to both, making that opportunity for them. So thank you for their flexibility, in that. Also, while I'm talking about the music department, there's been band concerts. I'll pass this around so everyone can see. I went to the middle school band concert because my son was in it. They did a special thank you to the board on the back. I just wanted to show everyone. Also, a great thing that they included was important and upcoming dates, which was nice, so that community members that did attend can see what's upcoming, for you guys. So I'll pass that around for everyone to look at. Let's see what else I have on here. It's a busy spring season. I feel like with the warm weather, we've been getting a lot of notifications on Parent Square for the community as well. There's class of 2028 is sending out fundraisers. It's Heart Month. We're getting stuff home from the kids for the Healthy Hearts through the gym. So that's great to see too, to boost up their healthy heart and just keep moving in physical activity. I want to give a shout out to Athletic Director Mark Pulver and Carrie Shaw Clement, to them for all the communication that they've been sending out. I feel like they've been working around the clock for setting up things here, and their involvement to get everybody amped and all the students going. It's been great. I think everything has been going so smoothly because of all the communication we've been getting, not just in school with all the students, but outside to the public and the community. It's been great. I know the boys basketball team has been a really big talk lately, with all of their social media coverage. Just for me as a parent going and watching and a community member, I feel like I'm an emotional roller coaster. For the past couple of weeks, I can't imagine what those parents are feeling. They have seniors. I'm sure they're on the same roller coaster with me, but it's been great to watch, and they're a group of great kids. And I am going to send around, this is from the section, Honeyway versus York game. It did have everybody's names on it, and the positions, what grade they're in. So I was just gonna pass that around for those who weren't able to attend. Shout out to Henry Sherman and his New Balance Nationals, this past weekend in Boston as well. He had a great, experience there. Let's see what else. I talked about music department. The scholarship concert as well got moved. Also, my last one is, with it being Women History Month, the middle school, high school library. She's been doing a great job on the bulletin board outside of the library and getting students more involved in the library. So shout out to Tracy Vandernald. Vandernald, thank you. I just want to make sure I said that right. And that's all I have.
Does anybody else have anything? Okay.
Just to jump on what Megan said, it's been really heart touching to watch the community rally around the school and the kids in the basketball tournament, in Henry going off to states and nationals. I think there was a Facebook post earlier today that the Beehive Brewery is stepping up to pay the fees for any student who wants to attend the game on Friday, would pay for their bus fare. So big kudos to the community for stepping up and being part of all of this fun and celebration. I see from the website, and I'm sure Superintendent Fluke will touch on it, but the elementary kids had their spelling champions this week. And we have, a winner that will go on at the end of this week to participate against other schools. So our young students are making news as well as our high school kids. So congratulations to everyone. Also, just real quick, I know we'll get into the committees, but I just want to give a heartfelt thanks to Mr. Bastian, Superintendent Fluke, Derek Vellies, for all, and the staff for all the hard work, rallying around, taking a look at the budget, putting their creative thinking caps on, and coming up with new ways to save money and improve our programming for our kids. So hats off to everyone for that.
Anyone else? All right, I have a few. On March 6th, it was Jerry and I, actually, we were able to tour the high school. And earlier on in February, the board was able to tour through the elementary school. The board collaborated, wrote a letter, and it went out on Friday to the high school teachers and staff, and it went out on Monday to the elementary. We saw so many good things here. It's impressive when you get to go in the classrooms and you get to see students in the pre-K learn how to look someone in the eye and introduce themselves and make sure that they're reading the body language of a classmate and making sure that they feel heard, and how many things you can learn from a cue by looking at someone. That was extravagant, I have to say. I was blown away that those kids could do that. And I was also thinking that high school, we went to so many different classes and were able to see students that knew what the expectations were. There were classrooms set up with beanbag chairs and relaxing dark places where they could sit and do their work. Or they could be with their friends and they could throw around ideas. And there were students that were spending extra time to clarify to another student who didn't understand something, taking the time to explain it as a teen to a teen would understand it. There's a lot of human when you go into those classrooms and have the opportunity to see them. And I just want to say thank you again to the elementary school and to the high school and to Superintendent Fluke to making sure that we were able to still participate in those tours because they are well worth it and they are why we do what we do. I would also like to congratulate Isabella because also on March 6th, I was invited to go to Newark for the Superintendent Awards Program where Isabella was acknowledged. Seeing all of the students from all the different school districts, Isabella, I have to say that you are exceptional. They picked the best of the best, and hearing the biographies of each of these students and then getting to see Honeyoy stand up there with all of those extravagant people too, it was wonderful, and I'm so proud of you. And lastly, basketball. So proud of all of them. It's really great. To our cheerleaders. Awesome to see in our town. This community is amazing. And now while I finish crying, if anybody has any committee reports or updates that they would like to give. You want to do facilities? It was short today. I can say it was only 30 minutes.
Yeah, I've just got a few of the updates we went over, but since I was listening on the phone, if you need to add anything or correct me, just let me know. I believe next Friday is when we give our submittal for the capital improvement project to the state education department. They started doing some roof sampling. Well, they did some roof sampling and there'll be a hazmat report back here by the end of the week. That's just so when we start doing work on the roof, we know if there's any kind of asbestos or anything that's gonna have to be dealt with. In a couple weeks, we're gonna be having a finishes meeting, which basically is going over the colors and designs we'd like to use. Let's see. We also talked about the possibility of splitting the gas meter at the bus garage so the town is on their own meter. And that's all I got.
I have two, right? So, the CRSC, committee met this week with, or no, it was last week, with the elementary and high school staffs. We, we reviewed, emission statements from other districts and we started drafting, a rough draft for our mission statement. For that effort there. And the finance committee met last week as well in some of the efforts we've already discussed right now.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have,
Okay.
I went to the Board of Directors meeting over at Four Counties on March 6th. And one of our biggest discussions was how are we going to get more people involved in Four Counties from the districts that are members, to try to get them more involved in attending training and conferences and just general meetings. Some of the people and the speakers that we've had this year alone have been awesome, and they've had some really great subjects that they've talked about. And the thing is, we pay into it. We need to get something out of it. So I think that's something that's going to be very valuable that we need to continue to do. I talked with the directors of the board from the other districts, and I asked them how, with the current financial straits that everybody's in, how are they working with their boards and the school administration to be able to continue to keep things going and be able to fund the things that we need to do? And I talked with Howard Dennis, who's the new executive director, and I asked him if there would be any possibility of an inspirational message sent out to all the districts to encourage participation from 4 counties. And so I think that's part of it. The other thing that we talked about was the ballot that we have to vote on tonight for the 4 counties officers and the people that we okayed to be in. Just a little background information about all of them. Robin is and has been the past president of Penn Yan for quite a while. I don't know all the numbers. That I know she's been on and off the board, not off the board, but as far as being an officer. But she's been the president there for quite a while. She's running for president of 4 counties. She'll be great at it. I think she's done it in the past, truthfully. And the other one is Julie Neverlizer, and Tori and Megan both know her from legislative committee. She's just a powerhouse and a go-getter. She's running for the vice president. So those are the 2 things that we're going to have to vote on tonight. I think that's it.
Anybody else? Okay, then I will turn it over to you, Superintendent Fluke, for the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. In anticipation of a lengthier budget draft meeting tonight, we do not have any additional presenters. However, Isabella and I do have a few highlights and updates. So I'm going to turn it over to Isabella first. Oops, here we go, student board slides. I'll do the clicker.
There we go. So I'll go ahead and start with, I have clubs before this slide. It should go, okay.
Let me see. Oh, it's
Okay,
not-
it just must have switched.
Okay.
Okay, so some clubs that we have some updates on is our National Honor Society. We had a meeting last week, I believe, where we have been reviewing our requirements and expectations for students. So we have a document that kind of lists student expectations and what kind of needs to be required in order to get into the Honor Society. And we're looking to see if any changes we would like to make as a club currently, and we are looking to make a few changes. So that's what we've been doing currently. And then youth to youth on, I believe, Monday, we did brownies for puppies. So after school in the lobby, we sold 4 trays of brownies in about 10 minutes. So, and our special education program, they made the brownies for us. So that didn't really have any cost on to youth. So we made about $55 straight there for our local Gordian friends. And then class of 25 and 26, we are planning to meet together to start working together for upcoming prom plans. We're looking to have it at the same venue, changing caterers and such, and different themes we're planning. And then tomorrow, our math team is heading to Nazareth for our math competition. So that will be an all-day event. That will be a field trip about, I think about 10 to 15 students, I believe. And then Odyssey of the Mind, they are waiting to get their scores back from their previous performance to see what they need to continue working on to improve those scores. So you can go back up to sports now. So for sports, starting with, I know it's only been, this is the 3rd day of the sports, but this is just a couple things that I could grab from students who are participating in these sports. So for track, I know we are pairing track with Bloomfield. Our winter track was mainly held here at Honeywell High School, and it looks like the outdoor is going to be mainly held at Bloomfield High School. So far they've been doing some sprinting and conditioning, and today they did some pole vaulting. So I know there's a few guys that are happy about that. And then for softball, just starting some conditioning and reviewing basics of softball. I know they did some hitting preseason. And then for baseball, they've started off the first 2 days with some pitching, hitting, and fielding. So again, kind of reviewing those basics again. And then for tennis, they began practicing on our home courts outside with beautiful weather. So they've been really lucky. I know when I did tennis freshman, sophomore year, usually Marches, you're layered up playing tennis. So that's really great for them. And then lacrosse is being held at Bloomfield High School, which we merge with. And I know some of our basketball boys who are currently still in season who play baseball and lacrosse are kind of just being held out for this 1 week. And then since their season will be done, hopefully on Saturday, they'll return to those sports on Monday. And then you can go to, you guys know I gotta talk about boys basketball. So this, I'm not kidding, guys. The vibe in this school right now is amazing. It just feels like kind of on cloud nine, and like we're like, oh, what's gonna happen? So we had, since our last meeting, the regionals where we won regionals 64-60 at Rush Henrietta High School against Westfield. That is where most of my emotions went up and down, especially towards the fourth quarter. It was like, oh, yeah, oh no, yeah. Luckily it ended with a yeah. And then we had exceptional seniors on Saturday. So this was held at Geneva High School. Owen Cuba and Owen Reynolds were both honored there, where they were nominated in the past to play for an exceptional senior game. They did not play because of their upcoming Final Four game. They also recognized them and Landon Washburn for getting first team All-Star, along with Dylan Washburn for second team and Braden Schneider for third team, and then Landon Washburn as Finger Lakes West MVP. Along with that, myself, and Maddie Dates, who were nominated as the exceptional seniors for cheerleading when we were still doing competition. So we've already been awarded for it, but we actually got to play, and we created a routine. We had 2 practices with the Red Jacket coach that were both 2 hours in Red Jacket, and where we both traveled to, and we created a whole routine, and we learned with people in the Wayne Finger Lakes region. We had cheerleaders from all over, and we all learned different sideline cheers together. We each had to bring one, which we did execute at those. We both did it at both the girls game where Sarah Botter, who was playing, and then Emily King, who was unfortunately on the sidelines because she had her wisdom teeth out, who also played. So we cheered for both of those teams. And then semifinals this Friday. Thankfully, Superintendent Fluke gave out that notice that we are going to have a half day for HCS. I think not only students, staff, administration, and community members, I think really support that decision. I know many students who are planning on taking a full day who are now taking advantage of that half day. So I have a friend, she was gonna not go to school that day, and she was just gonna ride on over to Binghamton. But now she's gonna come for that half day, and then she's gonna head on over to Binghamton afterwards. And I think we've also seen some great opportunities for not only our students, but community members through our community members. So we've had costs covered by Scott, is it Gillen and the Birdhouse for busing, which is awesome for not only students, but also staff. And then anybody who needs assistance in buying tickets have been funded by an anonymous donor. So that's awesome. And that'll be at 3:15 at Binghamton versus Moravia, not really sure. And so that will be happening. And I just know it's going to be amazing, because I know if we did not have that half day, Superintendent Fluke, I don't think there'd be anybody in this school. I know you have a lot of staff. The staff is what makes the game so special. When you see all your teachers there and they're all going crazy, it's the best feeling. So I think not only myself, but everybody in this building has been really thankful for that. So next slide is thank you.
You forgot the send-off.
Oh yes, tomorrow we're doing a little send-off, just like we did for Henry Sherman. So that'll be fun, and I'm sure everybody's gonna have their little posters and pom-poms, so it'll be a lot of fun. A lot of hype surrounding it, so I'm very excited.
All right. And the send-off, we are really excited about it. The boys are going to be parading around through the elementary building. They're already making signs and things. So the entire school community is going to be involved. Community members have reached out. And if you've been a fan sitting in the stands, you can just feel the energy. The fans have been twice as loud, twice as big, and wearing all blue. It's just, it feels really great to be a part of that. So happy to do that. So each year, 25 students throughout Wayne Finger Lakes are recognized by their district as the Wayne Finger Lakes Student Award recipient. So the award recipient demonstrates leadership as defined by, and we see here, the consistent demonstration of qualities and characteristics that we would want to see in someone that assumed a leadership role within the Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES region. This year, we congratulate Isabella Nellis as our well-deserved recipient. So here you see us on March 6th, Isabella and her family, along with myself, Mrs. Tori Penrod Clark, and high school principal, Mr. Nate Schneckenberger, were invited to the awards dinner where Isabella and 24 other recipients were honored. So it was a pleasure, Isabella, to meet your family. And them and us, and everybody here are just so proud of you. So let's give her a round of
Thank you.
applause. I would also like to congratulate this month's Rotary honorees. Tonight, we celebrate middle school student Ethan Warren and high school student Michaela Webster for outstanding citizenship and for being positive community service members. Also pictured here is this week's PE activity. So thank you to Ian Buckley and Rachel Sherman for creating a mini golf course in the high school gym. Students had real golf balls, real putters, score sheets, and even the mini pencils. In this particular group, it's hard to see in the upper right-hand corner, but it looks like a congratulations to Dominic Basil is in order. He scored he was the lowest, so I guess that was our winner. So great job. But this was so much fun. There's me in the middle bottom there putting at one of the stations. It was awesome. So also a highlight that I thought appropriate to share tonight, a message from the Dansville principal from 2 basketball games ago, acknowledging our players. So here are some of the quotes from his email. So he said, multiple players from your boys' varsity basketball team approached me on Wednesday night. They thanked me for hosting the game. Very impressive young men. And he also said, not only did they win, but they won with class. And he also said, keep up the good work at your school district. So I thought that was pretty amazing that the high school principal, who I've never met, went out of his way to send me that going into the weekend. So just another kudos to our players and the students here at Honeoye. So, and just wanted to be thankful for all of the adults participating and teaching our students how to be kind and respectful and to demonstrate what it means to represent Honeoye. So kudos to everybody there. In the corner there, you see it says Channel 10. I don't know if everybody saw, but Mark sent out a link today. Channel 10 was here just yesterday interviewing some of the boys, but it's a great clip if you get a chance to take a look at that. So also want to give a huge shout out to Mrs. Carly Walsh and our Honeoye cheerleaders for doing an outstanding job hyping up the crowd. So their smiles, cheers, and positivity has not gone unnoticed. So great job to the cheerleaders. Again, a positive representative of our district.
We will be there in uniform on Friday.
All right, I can't wait. You
And-
better be.
And Saturday.
And Saturday, that's right. All right, great job. And now for updates, last week at our student board member, Isabella, asked about cafeteria portion sizes. So since last time, I actually met with our cafe staff. They gave me some really important documentation here, assuring me that they are following the state mandates of portion sizes. So they did print this for me. It's got the minimum quantity amounts. So they walked me through how they do offer different sizes for different ages. But they did emphasize if any of our students are still hungry, please just come up and ask. They always give extra portions to those who are hungry. All right, so make sure, Isabella, you pass that along. Also confirmed since last time, the grant we are part of that awards us the free breakfast and free lunch, it's good through December 2029. So we do not have to worry about free meals for our students going away anytime soon. Okay, our spring safety drills are underway and families have been notified in accordance with state regulations. Okay, so there will be a lockdown drill coming up around the corner. And I think we have 2 more actually to do before the end of the year. The school scholarship concert is coming up next Tuesday. That's the one that was rescheduled. 2 of our seniors are on, also big musicians receiving scholarships for music. So again, speaks to our well-rounded students. Owen Higgins and Owen Cuba, they really wanted to be at both the concert and the game. Brian Wilkins was absolutely amazing, and so were the families that we, in moving the concert from tomorrow to Tuesday. So thank you to everybody there. Also going on next week, the Washington DC trip for band, they depart on Thursday. Next, on Monday, 2 days ago, approximately 30 of our high school students attended the National College Fair in Rochester. There were over 700 colleges there at the fair. And our students were able to explore. A student said it was an exciting, fun, and very informative experience. The capital improvement project posters are coming soon. They're going to be updated, the ones that are outside of the auditorium. So those will be updated hopefully within the next 2 weeks. And we did get confirmation just today that the playground meeting is being pushed a little bit more to late spring or early summer. So as soon as we are able to produce the level of documentation needed to have those community conversations, then we will be inviting the community in to be a part of those discussions. So that is coming. And then lastly, Friday's Superintendent's Conference Day went extremely well. We had 24 menu options for all staff in the morning. All of our leadership team members ran at least 2 sessions. We had members of our mental health team presenting, teachers, and then members of the Smart Start grant. They were here last week presenting for us. They were also presenters on Superintendent's Conference Day. We also, the whole staff enjoyed together a potluck lunch in the CAF. It was absolutely packed. Everybody was there. And then we had a wellness afternoon filled with many options, including self-defense classes, yoga, ping pong, badminton, healthy snacks, spinning in the fitness room, which I did not do, and karaoke and more. It was just a really great way to end the afternoon on Friday after putting in really hard work in the morning, the lunch followed by that team building in the afternoon. So kudos to everybody there. Feedback has been outstanding. We did put out a Google survey, and those responses are still coming in to see how we could tweak that for future professional development days. Yes.
Wellness Day activity. If Mrs. Fluke ever asks you if you'd like to play ping pong, go the other direction. She'll take your lunch money. Very, very good. Sneaky serve. She's like, oh, I'm not so. She's an ace. So just watch out if she challenges you
It
to ping
was
pong.
so much fun.
Yeah.
So thank you. All right. And that is it from me this evening. So at this time, I will turn it back over to Mr. Bastian. Thank you.
Really quickly, our tradition for a few years has been to look at some budget lines once a month for comprehensive budget report updates. And I just have two items to look at tonight. And both of these fall into the category of transfers within the budget, as we've talked about over the course of this year. An example, first example is from technology, is that some of the BOCES costs, the pass-through cost for some of our edutech and other computer technology through BOCES came in higher than was budgeted. And so I'll look at different lines in the budget where there is the possibility of transferring money from and to. And so this is one of those examples. Up on top is the 263490 that was $33,000 short. So a transfer was made from business office 490 for this year, 24-25, that was well budgeted and was able to transfer money, that amount out. So this is an inter-budget transfer example. And then the next one is the special education private school tuition line. We've talked about expenses coming in high there, about $270,000 higher than budgeted. And so this actually required a transfer from 4 different lines, $64,000 from the BOCES special education budget line for BOCES programs. So the students enrolled in the BOCES programs, there was money there, while as we were under budgeted in the private school, so we were able to make that transfer of 64,000. 76,000 from the health insurance budget line, 124,000 from secondary school teacher salaries, and about $6,000 from elementary. Put those together, and that has taken care of the $270,000 shortfall in the private school special education budget line. And there are times where we will need to do this within the budget over the course of a school year. So I wanted to give those 2 examples as part of this evening's budget comprehensive budget report. Thank you. Slide it off again. Sure, I can give a quick update on the emergency project for the auditorium. We've been working with different groups within the school to see what the needs are, especially the spring play for the stage. The crew is actually going to be in, the crew from the HVAC company is going to come in the week of April 7th. And they're going to start working up on the roof in the mechanical house where the air handler for the auditorium is located. They will not be working so loudly that it will disturb use of the stage as needed. They will also be working a shift during the day. So if they were making any noise, they won't be making noise at 3:30 or whenever the play practices start for the musical. So throughout the month of April and May, before the play, which is the musical, which is very important, they can be on the stage, building the sets and having the rehearsals and everything they need to do after school into the evening hours, and that will not be a problem. They will be taking out the old air handler in the middle of April, and then they'll be putting in the new air handler. We will not have cooling. We will not have that airflow with cool air until later in June, because the chiller component, the chiller units and everything that going to go along with that will not come until later May. So it will be worked throughout April, May, and June to have the air conditioning up and running for our later June and certainly graduation events. That's always been the goal.
Okay, we will move along with the consent agenda section of the agenda, approving the minutes for March 5th and the CSE minutes. Could I get a motion for those, please?
I'll move.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Then move to personnel. We have a resignation. I need a motion to accept the recommendation from Superintendent Fluke to accept the resignation for Clarissa Hensler as of the 25-26 varsity boys cross-country coach, effective March 19th, 2025. Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
And a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Appointments. We have the election inspectors, the monitor for the cafeteria, 24-25 coach, an unpaid assistant, and a long-term substitute health teacher. Is it okay if we take these all together? Okay. Can I get a motion on those, please?
I'll move.
A second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, those are carried. New business, old business. We have the 4-County School Board Association official ballot. And so we need to submit our ballot. Can we do that tonight, Jen? Okay. So as Jim Sykes was speaking earlier about the 2 candidates for the election of officers, Robin Johnson as the president from Penn Yan Central School District and Julie Nevelizer from Newark Central School District as the vice president. We just need to pick a yes or no for each of those. So, well, there's only 2 candidates, so should I just say all in favor for president and vice president as they are stated? All right. Can I get a motion on those?
I'll move.
A second? Any discussion on those? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, those are carried. And then for the banking, we just need the annual designation of depositories for association funds starting July 1st, 2025 will be through Reliant Community Credit Union. And then the signatories on the bank account starting July 1st would be the executive director, president, vice president, and treasurer. If everyone agrees to those, can we just say aye then, Jen? Okay. All in favor of those? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Those are agreed upon. And then it says, what topics, speakers would you like 4-County School Board Association to offer in 25-26? Does anybody have any suggestions for those?
I know that they have been talking about doing what we're talking about doing here as far as the regionalization. And I don't know if they want to do, if we get it to go through here, maybe it should be continued on and to see if it'll go bigger. But I don't know.
Yeah, the third question on there is, would our district be interested in facilitating? Oh, a student-led presentation, never mind. I was reading it wrong.
So you're seeing like a retreat setting then?
Well, yeah, actually seeing if they would want to host it and have it over there with all the districts that are in 4 counties.
Okay.
I know they've talked about it, and I know that Lynn Rudnick did it with BOCES too, but the other thing that Joe McNamara, who is the current president, called me this week, and we had a discussion about one of the things that we're talking about over there is, and it was in the NISPA paper about the which we already do, thankfully with Isabella, have student representatives on the board. But we're looking at what would we do if, should we really have any kind of orientation, training or anything like that? That's one of the discussions that we're working on. So I just think that that's, kind of where we're at with that.
I mean, I'm fine with those ideas being added on our sheet if Jen wants to write those in for us. And then, does anybody have any suggestions of topics or speakers for the 26 Spring Education Conference? I've always thought, well, I went last year and it was very well done. School safety is always talked about. There was some board to board, how to work with each other, healthy relationships of a board. I thought those were all well done. I guess my suggestion it's not really a topic or a speaker, but I just think it's hard for people to go all day on a work day.
It's been discussed and we are looking at it. So we haven't got any ideas yet, but we are talking about it. And they do recognize that it is a problem. So, I mean, last year we had 80 people participate. This year I don't know what it'll end up on Friday, but the last I knew it was 40. And that was that was also including the vendors. So
Okay.
it's not, unfortunately, it's not as well taken care of. And that was part of the discussion, was the fact that it is when people are working. So
I can't really think of any other topics or speakers for the Spring Education Conference. Does anybody else have any ideas? Skipping down to 3 then, would your district be interested in facilitating a student-led presentation workshop at our 2026 Spring Education Conference? What would you like them to present on? Does anybody have any thoughts on that? The ideas are just rolling out of us tonight. I don't know.
there's time too also. Doesn't have to really go in now. They're just looking for input.
Okay.
But if somebody does come up with something, I don't know if it would be something that we want to look at with some of the new teaching programs, that if the kids get into it and see how they do. So I don't know.
Okay.
I think like cell phones have been a hot topic and they keep rounding about.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something that our kids here could talk on behalf of being in a smaller school, what each teacher, I know every teacher is different in every classroom with their cell phones, but maybe that's something the kids can talk about on their behalf. And what's working, what's not working, which kids are getting caught, like if phones are getting taken away in that aspect.
Another idea or possibility would be vaping. Talking about vaping in school. And how do we prevent it or avoid it?
Isabella, do you have any ideas, being in the student body, like any topics that students might want to present on? Like, is there anything here that we offer or that we do different that kids talk about a lot?
Trying to think, it's hard on the spot. But the two you guys have are good. Like, I think our current like cell phone policies are like what teachers have in place have been really effective, especially with our small school and you know how connected everybody is to each other. And then vaping, I think the presentation would again have to be more on preventative then. Because I think we do a good job on like catching it, but however, like the preventative side and getting the starting of child addiction.
Anybody else think of anything? Okay, I guess that's it for now then, Jen. Okay, thank you. Let's see, we have a memorandum of agreement. So I need a motion to approve the HTA MOA testing accommodations.
I'll move.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Right, that's carried. Invoice. I need a motion to approve the invoice from Bond, Shonik and King. Is there any discussion on, oh, sorry. Skipping ahead. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll move.
And a second? All right, now is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Capital improvement project invoices. I need a motion to approve Watts Architects and Engineer invoices 43469 and 43941. Get a motion?
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Nobody wants to.
No discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. Lastly, we have comments from the Board of Education. Does anybody have anything?
I do.
Okay.
I just want to let everybody know that I'll be out of town April 11th, possibly through the 29th, but it may not be that long. My wife and I are going to Outer Banks and we may go on to Florida, but we may not go on to Florida. So it depends. But I will be missing the April 23rd board meeting. If I go on to Florida. If I don't, I'll be back for it. So I just want to let everybody know that. And then also, I just want to let everybody know that I will not be running for another term on the board. I'll be stepping down. So just wanted to let everybody know that in case people are out there looking to who we need to get for our candidates. So. All right, thank you.
And lastly, you'll be attending the spring conference on Friday. As obviously bring back as much as you can for the rest of us. We did have the decision to be made because our basketball game is also happening at the same time. And Binghamton and Newark seem to be in the opposite directions, so yes. And then I think that is it. I would just like to offer from the Board of Education continued success to the basketball team and the coaches. We hope that they do well. They have made us so proud already. And other than that, I do not, we have information listed for the board under number 12, and then I do not believe we need to go into executive session this evening. So I am looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting. In a second,
I'll second.
is there any last minute discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye, any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you for coming.